In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to build an awesome 1440p gaming PC build powered by NVIDIA's RTX 4070 Super. This build includes some of my favorite components on the market right now, from Montage's new great value all-in-one CPU cooler to one of the most popular cases of the year and a stunning all-white motherboard. And as always, I'm going to walk you guys through everything that makes this build possible, why I've selected the parts I have, some alternative choices you might want to consider before looking at performance a little bit later. Let's do this. Corsair's latest mid-tower PC case is here. The Corsair 3500X has arrived, boasting support for most large graphics cards, 360mm AIOs, and even eATX motherboards. Reverse cable motherboard compatibility also allows you to use the latest designs in your build, while panoramic glass at the front and side shows off your system in all of its glory. Available in black, white, RGB, and IQ-Link derivatives, you can check it out at the first links in the description below. I'm going to begin this build by talking about the most contentious area first, the CPU. Now this is an AMD Ryzen 5 chip from the 7000 series, and at sub $200, the price you can often find the 7600 and 7600X at the likes of Amazon and Newegg, it makes a lot of sense. Especially for this build where 1440p is the priority, we're more likely to see a GPU than a CPU bottleneck. You might also want to consider the new Ryzen 5 9600X, but as we've seen from both other people's testing and our own, this chip is a hard one to recommend right now. Yes, it's more power efficient and does deliver strong IPC improvements. Basically, that means at the same clock speed and same core count, you're going to see a decent uplift in performance, further driving that efficiency as far as power consumption goes. But at the $279 price point, which is around about $60 or $70 more than the Ryzen 5 7000 CPU, it's just not recommendable, at least for now. Things will change, prices on these CPUs will fall. It's what AMD do. They bring a new GPU or a new CPU out, they kind of get criticized in the reviews for offering poor value for money, and then the price plummets like a lead balloon a few months afterwards. If we know anything about an AMD launch, don't buy at the beginning because it's going to get considerably cheaper. Now, either of these Ryzen 5 CPUs are going to be a great pairing with NVIDIA's RTX 4070 Super. And if NVIDIA cards can be criticized for one thing, their price premium over their AMD counterparts, at least you know that the price you're going to pay for one of these isn't going to change drastically week on week. No one wants to buy a GPU or CPU, it fall in price a week later, and then feel like they've got a bad deal. In terms of the GPU landscape, the 4070 Super is one of my favorite cards right now, and in our recent budget-oriented 4070 Super gaming PC build, you guys had a lot of good things to say about this card. Now, the 4070 Super only has 12 gigs of VRAM, that's 4 gigs less than its direct AMD counterpart, but in our testing at 1440p, this seems to be sufficient. That's not to say more VRAM won't be ever more useful as years pass, but I think for now, in the next couple of years, this card is just about okay on the video memory front. I also absolutely love how this Gaming X Slim card in white looks, and I think MSI have done a pretty sensational job with this GPU. I mean, look at that. I'm loving my white builds at the moment. I've built like so many white theme systems. I'll link them down below, but let me know in the comments which one is your guys' favorite. This GPU is actually going to match really, really well, not with an MSI motherboard, but with one from GeekaWhat, and this is the B650 Aorus Elite AX Ice. Now, I haven't run the numbers, but I think this might be one of the most featured motherboards on the channel ever, and I think you guys, at a quick glance, can probably see why. It is gorgeous. Rear I/O connectivity is pretty good. We've got a 2.5 gig Ethernet port, some high-speed USBs, and of course Type-C, as well as the inclusion of proper motherboard Wi-Fi. Always a lot better than a third-party PCI or worse USB solution. Now, I'm going to go ahead and install as much into the motherboard now as I can. The RAM is obviously the next natural component. This is Team Group's T-Force Delta DDR5. This is a 6400 MHz kit with a low latency. It's Intel XMP certified and does work with AMD Expo as well. I really like how this RAM looks. I think Team Group have done an absolutely sensational job on the aesthetic. You can see there's enough graphics that it looks kind of gamery and a bit angry, but it's not particularly too over the top. And I'll also be adding in Corsair's MP600GS. Now, this particular one is the 2TB, but if you want to save some money, 1TB will be totally fine. This is a nice, speedy Gen 4 drive, but it's by no means the most expensive NVMe you can pick up for this build, which I guess is a good thing. As far as the installation goes, super simple. Just find the little golden triangle on the processor and match this up with the triangle here in the corner of the CPU socket. Then it's a simple case of lifting the arm up. So push it down, out, and pull it away. Lift the socket cover up and drop the CPU into place. Do be careful with Ryzen. Obviously, pins on the motherboard, you do not want to damage those. I think I prefer the pins on the board than the CPU, but you still do need to be careful. Once lined up, push the arm down and the black plastic will pop off without too many problems. RAM or memory is then going to be next. Nice and easy, just get this thing out of its packaging. And then I'll be installing into the second and fourth DIMM slots. So push the clips back, all 4 slots, then go ahead and slide the memory in. So the first DIMM, bit of pressure, and then repeat this as well for the second. NVMe is next up, and for this, you need to ditch the standard Phillips head and instead grab a teeny tiny screwdriver. And now I'll be using the top slot on this motherboard today. Really simple on this GeekaWhat board, just 1 screw. Sadly, not completely toolless. Maybe we'll see that when, I don't know, B850? Whatever AMD call the next B series Ryzen motherboards, I'm sure there will be some at some point before sliding the NVMe in. A little something like so. The little plastic clip will secure it into place, and then you can just re-add the NVMe cover without too many issues. Once all this is done, I'm then going to go ahead and prep for the CPU cooler. Now, you might be wondering why I've gone for a 360mm all-in-one in this build, and the honest answer is, yes, it's overkill. Ryzen is very upgradable, so I think going for a cooler that gives you good upgrade path is sensible. This Hyperflow is extraordinarily cheap, well under $100, around the $90 price point. I'll leave latest pricing and availability down below for different regions and retailers, as usual. And I'll be honest with you, I just wanted to give it a go. I saw it at CEX. No, I didn't. I saw it at Computex, not CEX. No. I saw it at Computex. Anyway, you know what I mean. Let's open up the packaging and see what we're working with. Now, we have a bag of mounting hardware. Good stuff. Yep, that looks all about normal to me. And then we have the actual cooler itself. So, by the looks of things, the block has pre-applied thermal paste, which is a good start. Quite a nice little block. Got a bit of RGB here, the Montage logo. Yeah, pretty basic, pretty simple. ARGB and a standard fan header as well. And this is the bit I really like. The actual cooler is pre-built, so the fans are already installed and look to be, yes, cable managed already. So you can see here, all the cables are nicely run, obviously intended for this to go in an exhaust config at the top of the case. If you're putting it at the front, you'll have to reconfigure. But I like they've done at least some of the hard work for me. Now, as far as instruction manual goes, I've got a pretty good idea how this is installed. And on AMD, I want to say it uses the stock mounting brackets. Yes, it does. And they have been removed on this motherboard. Oh no! I've managed to locate the little white plastic brackets. They look a little something like this, and if you buy this board from New, they'll come pre-installed. Some coolers use these, some don't, hence they were removed. The AMD bracket for the cooler looks like this and will slide on to the bottom of the unit. I'm going to save this though, as having this plastic cover on to protect the thermal paste is going to be useful when moving the whole thing into the case. So keep this bracket safe, as you'll need to swap this over in a few moments time. Now, talking of the case, oh, I am excited. It's been a while, and by a while I mean a few months, since I did a Montech King 95 build. And if you've seen any videos where I've talked about my favorite cases, you'll know this one is pretty much at the top of the list. Why is this case so good, you might ask? Well, let me unbox it with a bit of magic and show you. Now, this is a dual chamber fish tank PC case. You might think, hang on a minute, fish tank, why is there mesh at the front? Well, included is this mesh panel, which you can actually go ahead and swap out if you decide you want more or less airflow. So you can see it really easily pops off, and inside the box, you also get a glass panel. Fun fact, this is actually a replacement, as I ran over the first glass panel with my car. Yes, here goes nothing. Man, my actual tyre, this is not good. Basically, Montech say on their website that the curve on this thing is so strong that you can run a car over it.
Are you sure about that?
And while I'm not directly disputing the accuracy of their claims, I can confirm in our own testing that that didn't go too well. Oh, Anyway, you can see the glass panel here gives you a more wrap around the real fish tank aesthetic. You may want to go for the mesh, you may want better airflow, and it's great that they include that out the box. Build quality, which has been a bit of a controversy with some cases in the market, definitely not a problem here. Now, on the Pro version, you get more fans included. This is the standard non-Pro design, meaning I'm going to have to add my own fans in. Luckily, I've got 3 included on the Montech AIO already, so I've already got a little bit of a head start. Again, another way you can get this build closer to that $1,500 price point, ditch the Pro version with the extra fans, use the cooler and its fans, and just add a couple in yourself. As far as what I'm going to do, I've not decided yet. I might decide later, might put some more Montech ones in, or might opt for some of Fantech's white D30 fans, which I really like too. Anyway, that's enough chatting about fans. Instead, I'm going to strip all the side panels off this case and make it that bit easier to access. I'm even going to take the glass off the front because, well, why not? Love to see an included screw organizer as well, and actually print all the names of all the different screws that you need. So by the looks of things, hard drive, SSD, motherboard, lovely stuff, and they're individually bagged as well. Really, really great to see. Montech are just the gift that keep on giving. I can't wait to see the King 65 in person when it comes out. This video is not sponsored, by the way. We've had this case like months and months and months, and I just really wanted to use it again. No other incentive for that, other than the fact I think their stuff is just really, genuinely very good. And that's going to go on there. Lovely stuff. Get that all lined up. Like it. And you can see the colour scheme already starting to come together just a little bit. As far as where I'm going to be installing screws go, we've got 3 screws to go in at the top of the motherboard, a further 3 screws down the middle area, and then a further 3 at the bottom. You can see just down here in the bottom right corner, over towards the middle, and over here in the left-hand side too. Now, technically on the CPU cooler, I can remove this top bracket to make the installation easier. However, I actually just think it's going to be fairly easy for me to install this in situ at the top of the case without taking the bracket out. Yes, maybe technically is a little bit more fiddly, but I think it's one less step. And to be honest, in this build, I'll take any time saving that I can get. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread the cable through the grommet at the back to get that out of the way. There we go. And then go ahead and line up the actual CPU cooler itself to the top bracket. You can see that's looking pretty good, and inside the bag of cooler hardware, there are some cooler screws. So give me a moment, I'm going to screw this in. Technically, you could put up to 12 screws at the top. 8's probably going to be okay though, and then I'll deal with the water block shortly after. Now is then a good time to change the default stock bracket on the CPU cooler. So just slide this off, really, really simple. Slide this on, and the pre-applied thermal paste is going to do a lot of the hard work for us. All you then need to do is secure these over the plastic stock mounting hardware. Go on, in you go. Come on. And as you can see, it's a bit fiddly. But hey, it is on. Just so you guys can see exactly how that's fastened, it just clicks on over the top and then down at the bottom. You can just see that is nice and secure there as well. With all of that into place, it might be tempting to do the GPU next, but I'm going to say stop.
Stop! You violated the law.
Hold it right there. Don't do it. Instead, cables. These are PSU extensions, and power supply wise, I have gone for this MSI A750GL PCI 5. Now, I had a hard time finding a good value white ATX3 750 watt power supply. I appreciate a few conditions there. So instead, I bought this black one, which you won't see at the back of the case, and these from a company called LinkUp, and they are white cable extensions. Now, I'm normally a bit of an easy DIY fab fanboy, but not today. Now, the reason is because LinkUp seems to be one of the only people on Amazon to ship their PSU extensions with a proper digital 600 watt rated Gen 5 PCI extension. This means we can plug into the RTX 4070 Super natively with a cable that looks nice. Go ahead and slot the power supply into place at the rear of the case, plug in all the extensions, and then I'm going to connect up the CPU to the top left of the motherboard power cable to the right hand side, and of course leave the GPU till later. Front panel cables are also a good idea to do now. HD audio to the bottom left, front panel to the bottom right, followed by the USB 3 Type A, and later USB-C connections onto the front panel of the motherboard. All those cables in now is going to make life a lot easier later on. Graphics card wise, let's see how it matches the MSI and the GeekaWhat. Yeah, that's not actually a million miles away. Certainly not something I think you'll distinguish once this build is, well, all lit up, the RGB's looking glorious. Now, in terms of PCI lanes, it looks to me like I need to take out the second and the third. Now, you'll see again, these are thumb screws. I wouldn't recommend taking these out with your thumbs. They're just going to be a little bit too tight, so loosen these ones off. You'll see the brackets will fall out. That's absolutely fine. And then, with a pushback on the clip, the GPU can slide into place. Just watch that USB cable and make sure it's all lined up at the rear. Come on, in you go. Why are you not going in? There we are. Come on. Yes. A little bit of persuading it into place, bit of pressure, and then those thumb screws, which are on the table, will actually secure the GPU in. It's quite a light card. It's their slim model, so it's a little bit thinner, and that means it shouldn't need any massive GPU support brackets either, which is, well, a bit of a mega bonus for the sake of this build. I'm then going to give the GPU power with our included 16-pin extension cable and booting this machine up. First, of course, to look at how it all looks when powered up, and second, to see how it performs in those all-important gaming benchmarks. Through into performance, and this is the really important bit of any build. Yes, I think it looks fantastic. I love the King 95, and the whole build is just really well balanced, but the numbers are really going to be the proof as to whether or not you should buy the components that make this build possible. Now, we're going to start off hard with Black Myth Wukong. 1440p, ultra high, DLSS 3 enabled, frame gen on, ray tracing set to ultra high. Basically, if there's a setting, it's on, and if there's a setting that can go to the maximum, it's at the maximum. Now, this is a game that looks amazing with these settings cranked up. I'm going to talk about those NVIDIA specific features that you undoubtedly pay a bit of a price premium for. This is where you're getting your value for money. Now, 63 FPS was the resulting frame rate across our run in the game. This isn't a super fast-paced title where you need the frame rate to be the absolute most competitive, like you would in Apex, Fortnite, or Warzone. So while it would have been nice to see this go slightly higher, at 1440p, I thought this was pretty solid. Alan Wake 2 is kind of a similar story. 1440p high, DLSS 3 set to the quality preset. That's going to reduce latency and give us a bit of an AI-powered boost to frame rate without too much visual fidelity drop. Frame generation on, ray tracing again on high, and the game looked great. And 90 frames per second was actually surprisingly a little bit higher than I thought we might achieve. From the 4070 Ti Super, we only gain another 16 FPS over this, and you can check out one of our 4070 Ti Super builds in the cards now for reference. Call of Duty's Warzone's next up, 1440p high, DLSS on the quality preset once again, and the build did well, 169 FPS. The 4070 Super's a really versatile card, and that shows here. Starfield also did better than I thought, 1440p high, and the game pulled in not quite 100 FPS, but 94, so getting really close to that triple-digit FPS barrier, while Hogwarts Legacy also performed super good on this system. 1440p high, smashed through the 100 FPS mark with 125 frames on average. For context, that's actually higher than a 7900 GRE, a card that's priced a little cheaper, but actually is sometimes regarded as being a better bet than the 4070 Super. Fortnite and Apex Legends wrap up our testing. Fortnite first of all at 1080p competitive settings. The build did well at 267 FPS on average. Really happy with that. While moving through to Apex Legends, moving up to that 1440p resolution, and the frame rate skyrockets, 238 FPS. That's competitive settings in Fortnite and high settings in Apex Legends for reference. What do you guys think of this build? I think it looks amazing and the performance is undoubtedly very good. I do think I probably spent about $100 more than I absolutely needed to get this level of relative performance, but the result is a build that looks amazing and is a system, if you replicate this one for yourself, that you can really be proud of. I'll link everything mentioned today down in the description below. If you enjoyed this one, get subscribed. Thanks for watching, and as always, I really hope we'll see you in the next one.